Hello and welcome to Tuesday's programme. This morning, how a hapless thief who unwittingly stole an American football star's commemorative sports ring was caught because he was wearing it.
You've got the Hall of Fame ring on your hand now. I mean, would you agree that's you? You ain't got a twin brother, have you?
You never know in this world.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Welcome back to Crime Watch Live.
Jamming the switchboard both here and at the incident room on that case of Welling Garden.
To remind you, this was the abduction and radio drop campaign and the handgun debate. Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. 12 people rang in giving the same those fantastic results later.
Good morning and a warm welcome to the programme, coming to you live from our studios in the Welsh capital city.
Today, detectives from Surrey want to reunite this stolen jewellery with its rightful owners.
We're hearing how a woman groomed by gangs is using what she's learnt to help avoid others having the same fate.
I got into a relationship with an older man when I was 15. He got out some heroin. Things got really bleak very quickly. Through working with Escape Line, I share my story with young people.
And it's a remarkable story, isn't it?
It really is a remarkable story. It's so powerful hearing her words. Plus, we are joined by officers from Thames Valley Police who have teamed up with Love Island's Georgia Harrison to educate and empower young people when it comes to consent.
Look, so it's pretty clear, if just because you've sent flirty messages or sexting messages to someone, you don't have to have sex with them. Consent is key.
As always, police and our team are ready to take your calls, so please do get in touch. You can use the QR code below. All you need to do is hover your phone's camera over the code and follow the link. Or you can call us on 08000 468 999. You can text us on 63399. Start with the word crime, leave a space and then write your message, or you can email us at cwl@bbc.co.uk.
First this morning, last summer, an unknown man collapsed and died at a train station. Can you help detectives find out who he was?
The British Transport Police are the dedicated police force to the railways in the United Kingdom. We police over 10,000 miles of railway track, over 3,000 stations, and ensure the safety of millions of passengers on a daily basis. We have specialist training and knowledge of the railway system. This could include incidents impacting the running of the trains, as well as crime, which can range from theft to more serious incidents like rape or even murder. We're also specially trained in dealing with vulnerable persons. Whilst we solve many investigations, there are some that we are unable to solve. It sometimes includes persons who have passed away on the rail network. Shortly after midnight on the 12th of June 2024, railway staff at London Victoria Station met a man who was sat on a bench. As the station was closing, they asked him to leave the station and they escorted him from the station.
We're going to help you up, all right?
1, 2, 3, come on.
1, 2, 3, on your... All right, good. Now just follow us straight. You need some assistance out as well? Let's go, come on.
Just as they got outside, the mail collapsed and an ambulance was called to provide emergency assistance to him. Sadly, despite their efforts, he passed away around an hour later. When a person passes away on the railway system, we launch an investigation, and that includes speaking to the coroner and trying to identify next of kin. In this case, the person didn't have a mobile phone, any identification documents on them to assist us. We have no idea if the person is a British national or has travelled from abroad. We have no information on this gentleman whatsoever. He was between 40 to 60 years of age, a shaved head, tanned complexion, around 5'7" in height. He had a very distinctive hunch, so he walked with a lean, and we hoped that that would help us in being a distinctive feature for the male to try and find out who he is, but that hasn't been successful. During the post-mortem, whilst he appeared unkempt, his teeth were in a really good condition, so that could indicate to us that maybe he's not been part of the transient or homeless community for a long time. This might indicate a change of circumstances, or maybe even travelling from a different country into the UK. So fingerprints were taken at the mortuary, which came back negative on the databases. We made inquiries with the local charities, local homeless support networks, and those who work within the station. No one had even seen a person matching his description. We then took a DNA sample, and that has also come back with no trace. The one item that he did have on him was an Oyster card. We know from the Oyster card journey history that the man first boarded a bus on the 11th of June, shortly after 1 o'clock in the afternoon from Praed Street, which is by St Mary's Hospital in Paddington. During the rest of the afternoon, he travelled on numerous buses across London and North East London before ultimately arriving at Victoria Rail Station on the evening of the 11th of June. The use of the bus network on that day and the previous days is somewhat random, and it could indicate that he was just using the buses to keep safe. This is a really sad case for us. It's not often that we are unable to identify who the person is. It's sad to think that someone could be out there missing this man, waiting for him to call and to speak to them. And it's really important for us to identify him and tell the family exactly what has happened to him.
Yeah, we really want to help find some answers to this case. I'm joined now by Detective Superintendent Sam Blackburn from British Transport Police. Really good to have you with us this morning. Before we get into the details of this case, you were actually on Crime Watch last series, weren't you? Have you got any updates from the appeals that you mentioned then?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. What a fabulous update and kind of inquiries we got back following that appeal. You know, we do have 50 unidentified fatalities spanning 50 years. But thanks to the viewers, we were managed to provisionally ID an individual only last month from 1983. That's 40 years ago, proving the power of Crime Watch viewers. And just give us that information, and we've got a selection of them to come up now. We really want more information that my detectives can work on.
You know, that's so incredible to hear. And as you said, from viewers getting in touch, you're able to piece key information together. So I'm really pleased to hear that it's helped. Let's turn our attention back to the case that we saw in the film just then. What more can you tell us? I mean, really sad, as Tony was saying there on the video. 40 to 60 years old, 5'8" in height. This male was at Victoria Station, succumbed to an illness, and sadly passed away outside Victoria Station just after midnight on the 12th of June. You've actually got a CCTV clip that we can show, thanks to something that he was carrying. Yeah, I mean, all he had was the bag that you see there, and on that was an unregistered Oyster card. And we see him travelling extensively on the bus network on the 11th of June for hours around London, boarding just out St Mary's Hospital in London. You know, why was he on the bus? Probably to keep safe, maybe warm. But what we need to know is, does anyone know him? He's 5'7", as I say, but he's got a pronounced hunch, stoop, curvature of the spine, which would have made him quite recognisable and just after anyone who would have seen him around London. Well, it is quite a distinctive look, isn't it? Any other bits of description that you can give that might help jog people's memories, perhaps? Yeah, I mean, he's got a shaved head. I mean, you know, the age is quite difficult to guess, but it is that back, I think, that will really mean, if you're with local charities, homeless, you know, come forward. And he may not even come from the UK. Well, as you say, if anybody has any information, you'd urge them to come forward. There were some other unsolved deaths on the transport network that you've actually come in to talk about today. We'll start with the one dating back to 2010.
Yeah, 2010, North Acton Station. I mean, none of these are crimes, unfortunately, but, you know, wearing a dark blue jacket, this male was, with khaki trousers and canvas shoes. But what's interesting about him is the extensive tattoos he had. They're kind of homemade tattoos almost, or not of the highest quality. And I would really be interested in anyone who knew someone who maybe had the eagle dragon on their chest, or the lizard on their arm with the banding around it, or the devil's motorbike, or the dolphins with the tribal marks around again on the arm. Those tattoos, I think, are very unique.
Yeah.
You know, if you knew a friend or a loved one or a colleague who had those tattoos, please come forward with a name and say, this was 2010.
Let's go to our next one, which is from 1995.
Yeah, 1995, St Albans Station, 4:45 in the afternoon. You can see the artist's impression of the individual there. Again, I'm picking up mainly around the tattoo on the right arm. And it's a poor quality tattoo there, but two swallows up and down, and then a banner in between, which would have said Maria or Marine on it. And again, I'm asking for anyone who knew anyone who had that tattoo, or maybe you were that Maria or Marine, and you can come forward for a name. You know, 1995, it'd be really good to put a name to this individual.
And finally, from 1993, this case is.
Yeah, no tattoos on this one, but Canley in Coventry, male, 25 to 35 years old, of large build, who's wearing a light blue polo shirt. This seems like an accident. He was on a steep embankment and was probably going to the toilet and has slipped down onto the railway track. Again, you know, 1993, do you remember someone around that time you didn't see before? Again, we really do want a name. Come to my detectives at BTP or www.mip.police.uk and have a look at our appeals.
Sam, thanks so much for coming in and telling us more. So if you do know any of these men, and if you can help give them their identities back, then please do get in touch using the MIP website. The details are below.
Still to come. Officers from Thames Valley will be telling us why they've joined forces with Georgia Harrison to empower young people on the topic of consent.
Just because someone's consented to sex in the past doesn't mean they automatically consent in the future. You have to get consent each time.
And I'm now with Temporary Chief Inspector Charlotte Lindsay, who is hoping to reunite this bounty of jewellery here with its rightful owners. Charlotte, welcome. It is quite a collection. How was it that police came to gather all these items in their possession?
Yeah, so this was an amazing investigation into a series of burglaries that took place between mid-December and January, around 13 in total, across multiple counties within the country. And we were able to recover lots of property, including some that is here today.
Some that's here. I mean, you say it's all over the UK. Let's have a look at the map here, because it really is, isn't it? It's from your force in Surrey, we've got London, Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, right up to Dundee. These are the ones that you know about, and of course there could be so many more as well. What do we know about the gang that was involved in all of these burglaries?
Yeah, so we arrested 4 South Americans who are currently on remand waiting to be sentenced at the end of April. What they've done is they've come into the UK on holiday visas. They then rent out Airbnbs or book into local hotels, and they use vehicles to scope wealthy areas and identify the houses which they want to burgle. And then across that time, they go and burgle those houses and then move on to another area.
So we know that there's that they've come from abroad, but there's a range of ages as well with this group as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
quite an age range.
Yeah, the 4 that we identified range from the age of 30 all the way up to 50. You know, they blend in very well with the community. You wouldn't necessarily spot them out of a crowd. And they're career burglars. You know, they're over here for a purpose and one purpose only. And then once they've got their items, they then go back home and sell those items on.
OK, but they didn't go home this time because they've been caught, which was some great police work.
Yeah.
The vehicles were involved in this crime, one of which we can see on CCTV now. How was that part of this investigation, Charlotte?
Yeah, so that was the Astra, so that they'd picked up a few days into the investigation. They started off with an Insignia and they worked with a Mercedes. And what we were able to do is track them through ANPR work and CCTV, as you can see on the screens. And we were able to locate them going to certain areas and follow that route that they were taking. We actually managed to catch them after they did a burglary in Milton Keynes. We were able to stop the vehicle using some really good proactive tactics. And within that car, we found a lot of jewellery.
That is fantastic. In the vehicle we just seen, there was jewellery in the boot of that, as was when you went to their premises that were controlling at the time. There was more there, some of which you've already given back to the owners of the victims from the previous burglaries. Yeah. But some of it is here in front of us now. I mean, it was described as like an Aladdin's cave, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an amazing amount of property, bags, jewellery, cash, filled the room, and it's filling the office now.
Wow, so there's so many things now. As I say, a lot of it you have managed to get back to the victims of those 13 burglaries that you know about. Items we got here in the studio, we just need to find out who they belong to. Yeah. Let's start with some of them that you brought in, Charlotte. What have we got here?
Yeah, so you can see a gold and blue pendant there, and it says Berkshire on the top, so a distinctive piece that somebody hopefully can recognise.
Let's hope so. As is the ring that we're going to show now, just down at the bottom there. Yeah. Let's have a close-up image of that. Charlotte, what do we know about this one?
Yeah, so that's a gold ring, and inside it says Ravi with a date, the 23rd of April. Someone will know what that means and who that belongs to.
And a lot of these items, it's not just the financial value, it's the sentimental value that's so important to people. Like the pocket watch we're going to show now. What do we know about that one with the little blue mark in the centre?
So we think that's quite an old piece, probably handed down from generations, and somebody will be missing that piece.
Yeah, and we've got other items in here. I just want to show this necklace here, just on the other side. If we can just close up there, can we see this one's even got coordinates on it that someone will surely know about this? Charlotte, if anyone is looking at this or they want a closer look, they want another look in their own time, there's an easy way that they can get access to your Surrey Police website.
Yeah, so if you just go onto the QR code that we've got here that goes straight to the Surrey Police website, and we have all of the items that we've recovered on there. So if anyone goes through it and thinks that that's their piece, then please do get in touch.
Really, really important. Yeah, just hover your phone over that and it will take you through to the website. Charlotte, thank you. Hopefully some of our audience will recognise some of these items and will get in touch with you and your team.
Next, how City of London detectives cracked a high-value jewellery theft involving a priceless NFL Hall of Fame ring.
This suspect was a career criminal committing burglary offences in hotels. £100,000 loss. It was my job to bring them to justice.
On the 7th of October 2023, a burglary occurred at a central London hotel. DC Alan Collins was in charge of the case.
Uniform officers attended on the day and looked for CCTV. There was no forensics, no witnesses to the crime. We didn't know who we were looking for, and having no forensics, it was proving difficult.
This wasn't any old hotel burglary. What was stolen was a valuable item belonging to a very well-known person.
Mr. Andre Reed was over from America. He's an ex-NFL football player. He played for Buffalo Bills. He reached the top of his career and he was awarded an NFL Hall of Fame ring.
And this priceless ring was stolen from Andre Reed's hotel room.
It has his name on it and it has the position he played in Buffalo Bills, gold-coloured ring with 28 diamonds. It also has a centre blue sapphire, which is also encrusted with diamonds. Mrs. Reed also had a Gucci handbag stolen, and they had both their passports stolen as well, which caused massive problems for them. about £100,000 lost just purely down to that one crime.
With no CCTV, forensic evidence, or witnesses, DC Collins' best chance at solving this was to locate the items that had been stolen.
The main property which I was looking and searching for was the Gucci handbag and also the NFL ring. I knew the ring would be of significant value to a collector.
On the 23rd of October 2023, a man attempted to sell the ring in a shop in Leeds. Police were informed on the 2nd of November and were able to obtain CCTV footage that offered them vital evidence.
He was wearing a Scotland baseball cap, a lumberjack type checked fleecy jacket. He had a suitcase on wheels, and the ring was clearly visible. When the suspect was talking to the staff in the jewellers, he was showing the ring and pointing to it.
He was also wearing a distinctive Gucci bag.
The Gucci bag was quite important because that was one of the listed items on Mrs. Reed's property. He's kept this as a souvenir.
The jewellers refused to buy the ring.
He goes 2 doors down to a pawnbroker's and he attempts to sell the ring in that shop. They also declined to purchase it. So he asked the pawnbrokers if they can dismantle it, take all the diamonds and the sapphire out. They agreed to do that, and the pawnbroker takes the ring back to the jewellers and they dismantle it. It was a bit disheartening, really, because we were hoping to recover the ring intact.
The police still had to identify who the man was and whether he was responsible for the burglary at the hotel.
Stolen property sometimes gets handed around, it gets sold on, but the chances are, with him having 2 items, he probably was the suspect for the hotel theft. Footage was circulated to other police forces throughout the country. Unfortunately, no results come back for that.
On the 1st of December 2023, another theft was reported at the same central London hotel.
I'd been at the theatre with my family and then walked back to the hotel. When I first approached my room and saw the door ajar, I questioned whether it was in fact my room. Upon pushing the door open and seeing the man stood there, I apologised and said I thought this was my room. He held the door open for me and confirmed it was. In this moment, my heart started racing. I was terrified and I ran to my family's room just a few feet away and began to panic and cry.
The intruder left the hotel with around £1,000 worth of jewellery as well as other possessions. Unlike the theft in the room of American football player Andre Reed, this time the hotel CCTV captured images of the suspect. He also left behind crucial DNA evidence.
The suspect had been drinking alcohol in the room from the minibar. The victim called the police straight away, which was very fortunate because that's how we managed to get DNA and fingerprints off the bottles within the room.
The DNA from the burglary on the 1st of December was circulated. They had a match.
It gives us the name of Gary Towsey. We compared that to the CCTV from the jewellers in Leeds, and it's him. It's a match. This was a massive break for us. Got multiple hotel burglaries, all linking to one suspect.
DC Collins conducts searches around Towsey and discovers that back on the 2nd of November 2023, a month after the first burglary, Gary Towsey had been arrested in a stolen vehicle. A list of the property he had on him had been compiled.
On that property list was a Gucci handbag. He was holding onto this bag as a souvenir. I still didn't know where Gary was. I've done various searches I then do what you call pins check to see if suspects are in prison. And it comes back that he's in Pentonville. I request a copy of his personal property, and lo and behold, the bag's listed on there. I scrolled down a bit further and it said Blue Stone. I gave them a list of the property I was looking for, and they produced an envelope. And within that, I was amazed to find all the stones. I knew that the gems had come from the ring. I was really excited about that. We had the blue sapphire, which is encrusted in the centre with what I believe to be diamonds. In addition to that, there was a necklace with NFL on one side and the Buffalo Bill logo on the other side. And I knew that these came from Mr. and Mrs. Reed. I had key evidence on Gary Towsey for all the crimes that I was investigating.
On June the 4th, 2024, on his release from Pentonville Prison, DC Collins arrested Gary Towsey and brought him in for questioning.
You've got the Hall of Fame ring on your hand now, but also you're wearing the victim's wife's handbag, the Gucci handbag. Did you try and sell the ring?
No.
I mean, would you agree that's you?
Yeah.
You ain't got a twin brother, have you?
You never know in this world.
Right, I'm asking.
There's twins everywhere.
He said he didn't steal Mr. Ring's ring, and he said he bought it off someone called Billy. I think Billy is Billy the burglar, myself. But he admitted to the other hotel burglaries where we had the DNA and the fingerprints for. He was very switched on the evidence we had. After the interview, he was remanded and taken back to prison the next day.
On the 5th of June 2024, Gary Towsey pleaded guilty at court and was sentenced to 25 months in prison.
I was too scared to stay anywhere but at home after the incident. Now I'm very wary. I'm happy he has been caught so he cannot put anyone else through this, and grateful to the hard-working officers that brought him to justice. But I'm still saddened by the whole experience, and it will stick with me for life.
These are the type of jobs we come into policing for. We never lose sight of the victims throughout the investigations, and we want people coming to the UK and coming to central London to feel safe and secure.
I mean, you really do feel for the victims impacted by crimes like that, don't you?
Yeah, it's one that just has such a lasting impression, clearly, as we just heard.
Absolutely. Good work by the team, though. Now, a survey of 18 to 24-year-olds recently suggested that only 28% recognise that if a person agrees to have sex whilst talking online, it doesn't mean they've consented to have sex if they meet up. It was upon reading this that our next two officers decided to take action.
We're joined now by DCI Laura Corskadden and DI James Jackson from Thames Valley Police, who are here to talk to us about consent conversations. That's a campaign focused on educating and raising awareness around consent, especially for young people.
And this is such an important topic, so thank you so much to both of you for coming in today. Tell us a bit more about the campaign, James, and how it was set up.
Morning. Well, Laura and I have worked within investigating sexual offences for large periods of our career now, and it's very evident that there's a lack of understanding when it comes to consent, especially in those age groups that you talk around, the 18 to 24-year-olds. We wanted to raise awareness in those age groups, educate, empower them around consent, which can be quite nuanced. And the way we wanted to do that was to start those conversations and to educate them further.
Nora, this is something that's really important for you as well, and was really important for you to get involved with.
No, absolutely. You know, this is something that's really, James and I are really passionate about, and consent and reasonable belief in consent is always at the heart of all of our cases. And we found that when it comes to sexual consent, myths and false assumptions persist. So the investigations that we've dealt with and some of the survey results that we've talked about have had a massive impact on us, and we really wanted to do something about it.
And you were looking at the data from a number of surveys, and that was quite surprising, wasn't it, what you saw with the attitudes towards consent. Let's just have a look at some of these now. So these have come from the CPS, and we've got one here that only 42% of 18 to 24-year-olds recognise that being in a relationship or marriage does not mean consent. I mean, that is huge in itself, isn't it? And we've got another one here that you've provided us today. Only 46% recognise that if a man has been drinking or taking drugs, he is still responsible if he rapes someone. Those are staggering, aren't they? And it was at that point, when you looked at all this data, you thought, you know what? We need to do something about this.
Absolutely. We thought we can't be passive. So what we did is we teamed up with an incredible production company called Breaking Barriers. We wanted to produce some really engaging and really impactful filmed content. So we did interviews. We had conversations with people of that age group talking about consent. And we knew that to really engage with that age group, we needed someone to lead this campaign. So we reached out to Georgia Harrison, who is a really inspirational public figure. She's an advocate in this area, and she's been a real driving force. She's had her own experiences when it comes to consent-based offences. So she's been fantastic in leading and taking these conversations forwards for us.
Yeah, so good to have someone like her as part of the campaign. We've actually got a clip from the campaign, so let's take a look.
Look, so it's pretty clear, if just because you've sent flirty messages or sexting messages to someone, you don't have to have sex with them. And if you've even agreed to go and meet someone for sex, you can still change your mind when you get there. Consent is key.
Powerful words there from Georgia. So important to just keep pushing that message to people. Were there certain places that you actually thought we want to spread this in this particular area, that would have more of an impact?
So ideally everywhere. The videos that we've got short form videos which are great for social media, for getting those messages out quickly. We've got a documentary which we've shown in cinemas, which we can use in universities and schools as educational content. You've seen the filming there at Reading Festival, and a real proud moment for us was having some of those campaign videos played on the main stage screens at Reading Festival. So that's to an audience of about 100,000 people at the festival. So to be able to engage with people at a time when they need to be thinking about consent was fantastic for us.
And James, that's something that really resonated with you, wasn't it? The festival environment, having with your police background, and you knew that this is a place you want to get this message out to.
Absolutely. I've worked at the festival a number of times now, over a number of years, and I've engaged with lots of festival goers. And it's not uncommon for people who go to the festival to believe that consent is implied. For example, if they've engaged in consensual activity early on in the day, that they can withdraw their consent later on in the evening. That there's a real misunderstanding around that, and lots of other misconceptions. But as Laura said, it was great that we got our video and we got the campaign out at the festival this year. It was on the main stage, and we have had a reduced number of reports of sexual offences within the festival this year. We believe that this is a large part of that.
It's key, as you say, breaking down those misconceptions, and for people to really understand the nuances around this is key. Have you faced any challenges, Laura, when it comes to the campaign as a whole?
So consent can be difficult to define. It's, as James has said, it's nuanced, it's not black and white. You've got to look at the circumstances, you've got to look at the context. We had to be really careful about language and about messaging. We worked with a lot of different groups, and for example, we worked with a domestic abuse support charity who talked about situations where in an unsafe relationship, it's not safe to say no. And in those circumstances, whether you've said yes, it's not freely given, that's not consent. We really wanted our campaign to be inclusive, to be representative for everyone. We want everyone to have a safe space to talk about consent. And with sexual consent, it's relevant regardless of your sexual orientation, your gender, your ethnicity, culture. Everybody's got the right to consent. It was really important for us to get that message out there. And I think probably one of the biggest things for us was we wanted to change that dialogue away from looking at the victim when it comes to consent, being really clear we're offender focused here.
Absolutely.
What's next, James? What's next for the campaign?
Well, we want this to go everywhere. TVP have produced this, but we're happy for other forces to use it. We've been working closely with GMP. We want them to put that out on their websites and to promote it within their own arena. We've also worked with Pride. They've created consent tents that are going to be out within the festivals over the summer. We're going to work again with festivals. We want to go into universities, into colleges, into school to educate as many people as we possibly can in and around the consent issues.
Covering all bases.
So many people would benefit from this. It's a fantastic campaign. I wish you all the very best with it. And if you want to find out more about these videos or the Consent Conversation campaign itself, log on to the Thames Valley website and search for Consent Conversations.
Now it's time to hear how a woman who'd been groomed and exploited by county lines gangs is using her experience to help others escape a similar fate.
For parents, they believe, oh, it won't happen to my child. when in reality, any child can be targeted. Absolutely any child, doesn't matter their background, gender, age, it really doesn't matter. Dateline is a charity, and our predominant role is to prevent children and young people being exploited by criminal gangs known as county line gangs. It's an illegal drug business, and the reason they call it county lines is they spread out across different counties across the country. Our predominant service is prevention. We teach children what to look out for and, most importantly, how to keep themselves safe. We are definitely seeing children getting younger. When I first set this up, I would say the average age was around 14, 15, but our actual youngest is 6 years old. Fortunately, that's rare, but it does highlight that they are targeting a lot younger children. As well as an increase in younger children, we're seeing an increase of children that are coming from loving, caring homes. You would not expect them kind of out doing drug running, and that's exactly why they're being targeted. One of our project workers, who does an amazing job for us, was sadly targeted at 15 years old by a drug gang.
So I grew up in a little countryside village. Really quite idyllic, normal upbringing. I had everything I needed. But as I got older, I started spending time with people older than myself, and they all took drugs. And I started firstly drinking and smoking weed, and it progressed to other things. When I was at college, I was selling weed, and I had a backpack full of it. And the police had come in and arrested a few of these lads, and I was able just to walk straight past them. I believe this is because women just aren't seen to be doing that stuff so much. Just wasn't on their radar. I got into a relationship with an older man when I was 15. He was in his early 20s. He was dealing drugs, and he got out some heroin, but I was so naive, I didn't know what it was. I said, well, don't people get addicted from that? And he said, well, no, not after the first time. You'll be all right. But with that became an addiction, and being only 15, it meant that he had complete control over me and would leave me withdrawing for long periods of time. Things got really bleak very quickly for me. My parents didn't know what was going on with me. They just knew that I no longer seemed like their child. I was 18 when I started driving for county lines. I would drive them up to London and other bigger cities to get large quantities of Class A drugs. I think I was chosen to do that because, one, being so young, two, being female, and three, I'm quite well spoken. They think, can't believe a girl like this could possibly be involved. My life continued with lots of drug taking, being around men, supplying my habit, wanting sexual favours in return. It was just a living nightmare. I was extremely frightened. I didn't think I'd get out of it alive. When I found out I was pregnant, I could never get clean for myself, but for a child, I knew that I just had to. And my son was born healthy. Having my son saved my life, 100%. And that was the beginning of me changing my life around and working with others. Through working with Dateline, I share my story with young people, and you can see that they really connect with that because it's someone saying, look, I've been there, I understand. I just feel if there'd been that awareness and education around county lines and the dangers when I'd been at school, things might have been quite different. But it's also about the parents having the awareness.
The key early signs we say to parents to look out for is a change of friendships, but also alongside that, a change in behaviour. If you know those key signs, and the earlier we can pick it up, the better the outcomes for these children.
Well, Escape Line will be launching a new helpline in the coming weeks. And in the meantime, you can find out more about their work by visiting escapeline.org.uk. We wanted to bring you some further updates from appeals that we featured recently. In October, we were looking for information about the death of 19-year-old Matthew Dolby, who was stabbed in Ormskirk in July 2023, leaving his family heartbroken.
He was caring, he was loving, he was funny, he loved playing practical jokes, he was polite. Everybody who met Matthew loved him. He was a joy.
He was just finding his way in life, and we were enjoying watching him grow and turn into a young man. And you know, that's one of the hardest things about the situation we're in at the moment.
Well, police were keen to trace a man who they believed was abroad. Following the appeal, Thomas Jerez attended a police station in Greece where he was detained before being extradited to the UK in January. He's now been charged with Matthew's murder and the trial is due to begin in July.
Now it's time for today's Wanted Faces. Police in the West Midlands have charged this man, Mark Anthony Williams, with threatening behaviour and want to question him about several other offences. He's 56, has a 1-inch scar on his right knuckle. Police say he has links to the city centre of Birmingham and is often seen near train stations, bus and tram stops. They also say he frequents Walsall city centre and Sutton Coldfield town centre. Next, we have Liam Stokes. He's been recalled to prison for breaching the conditions of his licence. He's 28 and has links to Hull in East Yorkshire and also to Dorset. Or what about Jonathan Hamer here? Cumbria police have charged him with burglary, but he's now gone to ground. He's 39 with a horseshoe-shaped scar on his left arm. He also has a tribal tattoo on his right arm. And last for today, we've got Daniel Kavanagh. He's been charged with conspiracy to supply Class A and B drugs. Cumbria police also need your help to locate him after he failed to appear in court. He's 31 with distinctive red hair and a beard. He has an Irish accent. So, if you spot any of these men or any of the other faces from last week, then do get in touch. Our contact details are on your screens now. Now, I should just tell you, we have had a lot of calls about that stolen jewellery today, and if you missed the appeal, you can catch up on iPlayer for up to 30 days after broadcast. And if you've been affected by any of the issues raised today, help is available at BBC Action Line.
Tomorrow, murdered by someone he trusted. We find out what happened to Ian Coots and how a determined team of detectives caught his killer.
I've seen many dead bodies in my career, but never one in this condition. This individual definitely had a story to tell.
We will see you tomorrow morning for that and more at 10:45 a.m. Bye for now.
See you then.
Good morning and thank you for joining us. We've got a busy programme, so do stay with us. Today, we'll be hearing from police about how they caught a trio of teens stealing mopeds just to go on a joyride.
These lads were doing it
for fun and games. Absolutely no regard whatsoever to any of their victims. We all really wanted to get these lads into custody.
We're in Stoke-on-Trent to hear from a charity supporting young people who've been affected by knife crime.
So far, the charities helps thousands of young people. Our aim is to show them that they're part of a bigger community that's going to make sure that they feel safe and they feel supported, always.
Also, the Met Police need help with an investigation into a sexual assault against a child.
And we'll be joined by a charity advocating for families who've lived through fatal domestic abuse.
As always, police and our team are ready to take your calls today, so do get in touch. You can use the QR code below. Just hover your phone's camera over the code and follow the link. Or call us on 08000 468 999. Give us a text on 63399. Start with the word crime, leave a space, then write your message. Or email us at cwl@bbc.co.uk.
First this morning, in a case that was woefully underreported at the time. In 2023, 48-year-old Fiona Home was murdered by her partner. Today, police want to find out where her remains are so a family can grieve her properly. Just to warn you, this film contains some upsetting scenes.
I have a picture in my bedroom of my mum. I see it every day and I just think, I need to know where you are.
When I read the name, I got goosebumps on my arms because I knew that he had murdered another woman.
"48-year-old Fiona Home lived alone with family close by.
My mum, she was just one of them people that were just one in a million. She was so generous.
She'd brighten up your day. She would, definitely.
I was born with sickle cell anemia and I've been going in and out of hospital since birth. My mum's always been there. She's always been supportive. She was more like my best friend when I was growing up. And it was more like she just wanted to do the same things what I wanted to do. Like she wanted to party, she wanted to show us her dance moves. She thought she was the best dancer in the world.
I think she was about 35 when she got diagnosed with autism, ADHD. She's basically got a mind of a 15-year-old. She was too trusting. She didn't see danger, she didn't see bad in anyone. She was very vulnerable, and a lot of people did take advantage of her.
In January 2023, Fiona had told her family she'd started a relationship with a man in his 60s.
My sister said to me she was going to some man's house she just met. So I was like, well, let me talk to him, because I didn't want to go into someone I didn't know. I spoke to him, he was kind of rude on the phone. He was, I think, a handyman. His name was Cole Cooper.
Around the time Fiona met Carl, she had started seeing less of her family.
It was March 23. I was really ill with my sickle cell and I had a lot of blood transfusions. I was in and out of hospital. I thought it was quite strange because I couldn't get hold of my mum sometimes when I was calling her.
Then a month later, Fiona called the police.
She disclosed that Cooper had threatened her that evening with a crowbar. And she also told officers that he'd previously stabbed her in the arm with a screwdriver at her home address a few weeks before.
Cooper was given a domestic violence prevention order, banning him from contact with Fiona for 28 days. Then a few months later, police were called a second time.
On the 29th of June 2023, Fiona was reported missing by her social worker.
The social worker called me and asked if I've spoken to Fiona. She was trying to get hold of her. She said she went to her place. No one was there. She's been ringing her phone, no answer. So I said, right, I'm going to go and have a look for her.
I went to my mum's house to see if she was there or if anyone in Blackheath knew where she was. Everybody said they haven't seen her for about a month. Then I went in the kitchen. Something just said to me, put out the bed sheets in the washing machine, and it actually had all mould on it.
Fiona clearly hadn't been home for some time, so Elise and Savannah decided to visit Carl Cooper's house to see if she was there.
When we arrived at Carl Cooper's house, all of his windows were painted white. So my partner scraped it and we looked in and it just looked like a cluttered house.
We was calling Fiona.
Yeah.
Shouting for Fiona. Because really, we thought that he was keeping her against her will.
The house was empty, so they reluctantly left. But when Fiona didn't call her mum on her birthday, Elise and her brother decided to visit Carl Cooper's house again.
We noticed a man with a van on Coles Drive. We asked the van driver if we could look in the back of his van. I noticed my sister's furry jacket. When the man gave it to me, it smelt of my sister and I was just sick. I was physically sick. I just knew then there's something bad's happened to her.
Unbeknownst to them, it turned out that Carl Cooper was already on police's radar.
In February 2022, we began a murder investigation of a woman who died in her flat in Woolwich.
The body of a 41-year-old woman called Naomi Hunt had been found by her neighbour. She'd been stabbed multiple times.
Looking at Naomi's life, we knew that she'd been in contact with a man, and that man's name was Carl Cooper. We know from previous police reports that Naomi had made against Carl that he was jealous and possessive. She'd reported him previously for stalking her and turning up at her address unannounced and refusing to leave. The case against Carl Cooper was very difficult for us because we didn't have any forensic evidence to suggest that he was involved in Naomi's murder. We had no witnesses. He himself had been interviewed and said, yes, he was there, but he left and she was still alive. And it was difficult for us at that time to prove that he was the person responsible, and we didn't have sufficient evidence to take the case to the Crown Prosecution Service.
Cooper was released on bail due to lack of evidence, and then 11 months later, he started his relationship with Fiona, who lived just 4 miles away from Naomi. When DCI Kate Blackburn heard about the disappearance of Fiona Home and that she'd been in a relationship with the chief suspect in a murder case, she acted immediately.
We'd been investigating Naomi's murder at that point for about 14 months, and I got goosebumps on my arms when I read Carl Cooper's name because I knew that he had murdered another woman. I went straight to my boss and I said that we needed to take on the investigation. I knew that both investigations would be stronger together and would provide us with the best evidence to secure a conviction. So I instructed officers to arrest him at that point and bring him to the police station for questioning.
Is it Carl?
Yes.
Carl, you're under arrest, okay, for the murder of Fiona Home. You didn't have to say anything, it may harm your offence if you do not mention
By this time, Fiona had been missing for more than 2 weeks. Cooper was arrested for murder.
Oh, I would never forget that feeling.
So why them choose me? Why them choose me?
They brought us to the police station and said they've arrested him on suspicion of murder.
In that moment, I didn't want to process it. I didn't believe it, that he done something so serious to my mum.
With Cooper in custody, DCI Blackburn and her team needed to track Fiona's last known movements.
We conducted extensive witness inquiries and CCTV inquiries and found footage of Fiona in Verdant Lane on the 20th of June 2023 at about 9:30 at night.
This was very close to Carl Cooper's house.
Cooper said, I saw Fiona that night, we went to the shop, we went back to my house, but she left by dawn.
But they had a huge breakthrough when they viewed some body-worn footage a fellow officer had taken in Cooper's living room 3 months earlier.
That showed a very different living room to the living room that we were faced with. There was a corner sofa, the TV was working, there was a glass coffee table, there was a rug on the floor, there was space to sit down on the sofa, and it was very much a livable, usable room. However, when we attended in June 2023, that wasn't the case. The front windows had been painted white, which appeared to be quite odd. You could see that the living room had been completely stripped out of wallpaper, the curtains had been cut, and it was no longer a usable room and had been filled with junk from the rest of the house. There was a corner sofa that used to be in the living room at Carl Cooper's flat. 2/3 of that had been removed and taken to a waste disposal site. And we could see that the sofa, which was a white pleather material, looked like the covering had been ripped from that sofa.
Police suspected Cooper had the sofa disposed of to hide crucial evidence. Forensic examinations of the house uncovered more vital clues.
We found blood belonging to Fiona on the walls of the property. There was also blood on a router in the corner of the property. Cooper would set fires around the time that Fiona went missing. We believe that was to dispose of evidence.
Whilst the findings confirmed everyone's worst fears, they didn't answer the biggest question.
What happened that night? Where is her body?
Police charged Cooper with Fiona's murder.
The blood evidence in the house was significant because until we had the confirmation that the blood on the walls was Fiona, we had very little forensic evidence or any direct evidence to say that Carl Cooper was responsible for either murder.
In June 2024, Carl Cooper was found guilty of the murders of Fiona and Naomi. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison for each murder.
We all just started crying.
And then I had to make the call to my mum. Yeah, that was hard. Because you're happy, but you're not. How can you be happy about that?
And then when they gave him a chance to speak, he was just... You could tell they had no remorse whatsoever. He didn't care.
I thought that he was going to tell us where her body was after he got found guilty and sentenced, but he just walked away.
The family just want to lay Fiona to rest, and so the police investigation continues to try and find her body.
She's out there on her own. We don't know where she is. She's just... It's horrible.
Most of us are not sleeping, not eating properly. My nan's always waiting by the phone, waiting for a phone call to say that they found my mum's body.
You can't move on because we can't say goodbye to her properly.
We can't grieve properly either. The thought of never laying my mum to rest, there's no words for it, to be honest with you. I just can't explain it. It's just so horrible and so upsetting because my mum doesn't deserve it.
This really has been so incredibly hard for Fiona's family. I'm joined now by DCI Kate Blackburn from the Met Police. Thanks so much for being with us in the studio. We obviously heard in the film there that Carl Cooper has been found guilty of 2 murders. So what do you want to appeal for today?
Yeah, so Carl Cooper was convicted last year of the murders of Naomi Hunt and Fiona Home. But today, my appeal is about Fiona. So we haven't recovered Fiona's body. And what I want to do today is ask anyone who has any knowledge of where Fiona may be to come forward. But I'd also like to just talk about Fiona, because although Fiona did have vulnerabilities, she was an incredibly resilient woman. She was very much loved by her family. And to have her back would mean the world to them, as you've heard in the video.
So let's talk, Kate, about Fiona's movements and where she was going the last time that she was seen.
Yeah, so Fiona left a property in Verdant Lane and she walked towards Brownhill Road. Carl Cooper lived in Broadfield Road, which was a couple of roads along, and we know that she ended up that night in Broadfield Road at Carl Cooper's home address. But we have no footage after her in Verdant Lane.
So she was never seen again after that point. And when was she officially reported missing?
She was reported missing on the 29th of June by her social worker.
So let's talk in a bit more detail about Carl Cooper then, Kate. Anything that might help the viewers that are watching today?
So Carl Cooper's in his 60s. From the photo that we have of him, he looks, a man in his 60s, but he would often wear a cap and quite trendy clothes and trainers, so he would look maybe a lot younger than 60s. He's got some missing teeth in the front of his mouth, and he would also speak with quite a heavy Jamaican accent. He lived in Catford, and we know that he had links to the Brixton area of London, and also would travel to Reading. He liked to travel around on buses. He was a plumber, handyman, so he may have done work at people's houses as sort of cash-in-hand work.
And when it comes to the murder of Fiona, you believe that he could have had help with this?
I think it's likely that he could have had help, yes, because Fiona was murdered in Carl Cooper's home address. I know that Carl doesn't drive, so I think it's likely that somebody may have helped him, potentially even inadvertently.
How can the viewers watching this morning help with this case?
So I'm really looking for any information, and that could be about anything. It could be something that people think is fairly insignificant, but that could be the missing piece for our investigation. I'm looking for people that may have employed Carl, as in a handyman or a plumber, in their address, or people that may have met him, associated with him. Or did you lend him your vehicle? Has he asked for a lift anywhere around that time period in June, so between the 20th and the 28th of June 2023. So it's a little time ago, but I'd ask people to just try and remember back to that time. And as I said, it may be that the person who might have helped him did so inadvertently, so they may not really have understood what they were doing. And I just want to reiterate that my aim is to find Fiona. So that's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. And finally, there is a reward in connection to this case, isn't there?
Yes, that's right. The Met Police are offering up to £20,000 for information leading to the recovery of Fiona's remains.
Kate, thanks so much for taking the time to come into studio and tell us more about this.
Thank you.
As always, our contact details are below or can be found using our QR code, and the number to call is 08000 468 999.
We're now joined by Hazel from Advocacy After Fatal Domestic Abuse. Hazel, we just heard the devastation from Fiona's family there, and this is where your organisation comes in, because you can help people like that. You deal with this all the time.
Yes, unfortunately, we see these cases come through more than we should. And AFTA are a charitable organisation, and we will help any family's friends who have been affected by a loss due to domestic abuse. And that could be a homicide, a suicide, or an unexplained death, and we can support them through that.
Yeah, such important work to do. So how do you actually do that? How can you support people going through such unimaginable pain as Fiona's family are?
Yeah, it's tragic, and these families have been through so much, and they are plunged into a world that they never expected to be in, a world of criminal justice, of domestic homicide reviews, of inquests. They don't know what that means, what it's going to do to their life, how they're going to cope with that. So we have a team of specialist advocates, and they will have an advocate who will take them through everything like that, step by step, make sure they understand what that's going to look like for that family, and make sure they know their rights and their options, so that they can make informed choices about, what happens to their family now. But the most important thing is that the family are integral to those processes, and that the family have a voice, and most importantly, the victim has a voice, because that was somebody's most precious person, loved one, and they need that voice.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it, Hazel? That's something that you can't stress enough, making sure that they have that voice and they are being listened to. And it's actually something the CEO of this charity is incredibly passionate about as well.
Yes, he is, and we have an absolutely wonderful CEO called Frank Milan. And unfortunately, Frank and his family found this in this position a good few years ago. His sister Julia and his nephew Will were killed by her estranged husband, and Frank found himself in that world. They didn't feel there was a lot of support, and certainly didn't feel at times that their voice was heard or their loved ones' voices were heard. So he set up AFTA, and since then AFTA have helped hundreds of families to cope with these processes, to cope what's coming at them, and to have some support alongside them during that.
Really is such important work. And something you touched on earlier, Hazel, actually, it's not just domestic homicides that you can help families with, is it? There's other types of death that you can really help them out.
Yes. Recently, in the last few years, we've seen a very significant increase in the number of suicide cases that are coming through to AFTA. And these are people who have been abused, and because of that abuse, they have taken their own life. Because as we know, it greatly affects your mental health. It takes you to a place where you don't think you've got anywhere to go, you don't know what to do, you don't think you'll ever get out of it. And they end their life. And the important thing there as well is there is a crime behind them taking their life. There is abuse, there is coercive control. So it's really important that those families get the support around that to try and get acknowledgement of what's happened to their loved one.
And finally, Hazel, if anybody is watching this and has been affected by this, how can they reach out?
OK, so come to AFTA on our website, afta.org.uk. We have lots of information on there about the type of support and what we do. We also have a help phone number on there and a help email address on there, so you can use any of them to get in touch with us, and we will chat with you about what we can do for you to help you.
It's just such important work you do, so that's brilliant. And I'll tell you what we're going to do, Hazel, we're going to make sure we put a link on our website with all that information.
Wonderful,
as
that's
well.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now, the teenagers in our next film went on a stealing spree for their own amusement. Little did they know it was the police that would end up having the last laugh.
These lads were doing it for fun and games, carrying a knife and stabbing people to take their things so they could video themselves for social media. Absolutely no regard whatsoever to any of their victims. We all really wanted to get these lads into custody.
1-6, both vehicles are stopped. One's off and running.
In January 2022, a violent gang of moped thieves went on a 2-day crime spree across Peterborough. Their target, fast food delivery riders.
So the first attack took place on the 8th of January, around 5:30 in the evening. The victim had just been to a fast food restaurant to pick up his order. Whilst he was attempting to deliver that order, the two suspects stepped out in front of the moped. One of them brandished a knife towards the victim's chest.
Give us the bike, man. Come on, take it. Get over there.
Understandably, fearing for his life, got off his moped, and the two suspects jumped onto it and proceeded to drive away.
The shaken delivery driver called the police. When the stolen moped was found later set alight, police suspected it had been used in a joyride.
It very much was a case of, we're going to take your moped and there's no real reason behind it.
The following evening, at around 6:30, another delivery rider was dropping off a pizza less than a mile from the first robbery.
The three approach the victim on his moped, and at that point, one of them produces what is described as a large-handled green kitchen knife and brandishes that in his direction and says, "Give me the scooter." At that point, the victim tries to get away, but he's pushed off his moped. They take that and they disappear.
40 minutes later, the gang struck again. Now with 2 stolen mopeds, the suspects rode around the city recklessly.
The suspects were picked up on CCTV, driving on pedestrian areas, going the wrong way round on main roads, generally causing havoc.
The gang then approached a 4th delivery rider.
Without any further warning, the suspect stabs the victim in the left thigh. He gets off his bike and at that point runs, understandably petrified. The suspects follow him, but because he's got a newer moped, the keys go a further distance away from the bike and it cuts the engine.
The suspects left empty-handed before attempting 2 more robberies that evening.
At this point, obviously, we realised that a fairly prompt police response was needed.
A police helicopter was deployed to search for the gang. And at 8:47, they were spotted.
Pass 1-6, we're on the scene. Contact with those 2 mopeds.
We ended up managing to pick up the suspects using the thermal imaging cameras.
They're now off-road. They've taken to the footpath behind Wilton Close.
At that stage, they are just driving around Peterborough, down residential streets, down small wooded footpaths, in any attempt to get away. At some stage, you actually see them going the wrong way down a road, on the wrong side of the road, generally driving incredibly dangerously, driving in pedestrianised areas in the centre of town, clearly giving no thought to who or what damage they might cause.
What the gang did next astonished the police.
Plus 16, it appears one of the pillion passengers possibly filming on their phone.
These lads were playing up for social media, potentially playing up for their friends, the opinions of their peers.
One pillion passenger got off, taking a photograph of them. They're back on now.
I think at one point they obviously realised that they'd been pursued and viewed by the helicopter with the thermal imaging.
They've entered underneath the railway bridge and they're stationary.
So they attempt to hide.
When the gang realised their tactic wasn't working, they decided to split up.
16, both vehicles are stopped. One's off and running.
Police continue to track one suspect.
The helicopter followed him and maintained sight on him and managed to follow him to the back of a residential street where you see him discard the moped and make a run for the back of a garden fence.
Got one decal out garden hopping. And he's in the, trying to get in the back door, trying to force a back. He's forced a back door in.
Officers soon followed before arresting their first suspect, Harvey Carr, at his home address.
This man's currently under arrest.
Then, something extraordinary happened.
There was a knock at the front door. It appeared to be another one of the suspects who was fairly shocked at seeing a police officer answering the front door.
He claimed he'd knocked on the door to ask for directions, but police weren't convinced.
Hey, boss, can I come in quickly? There's a man at the front. Got officers with him?
Yeah, we're with him. He's lost.
It didn't take too long for officers to actually realise, with communications from the helicopter and obviously other officers that had seen the lads on the mopeds driving around Peterborough city centre, actually, that was one of our suspects.
Weston Haylock was arrested, but there was still one member of the gang on the run. A witness had noticed he had a distinctive tattoo on his cheek, and the following day, he was recognised on social media. Tyler Easterbrook was tracked down to the same house where his two accomplices had been arrested the night before.
We turned up and Easterbrook was found hiding under a piece of insulation within the roof cavity.
Once all three were in custody, detectives seized their phones and were amazed to find the gang had filmed and documented their entire crime spree.
We saw countless videos from various social media platforms that the three lads had made during the course of that evening, showing them setting fire to the mopeds, revving the mopeds that they'd stolen. You could see the police helicopter in the background of some of them. There was messages saying, shall we go and rob some peds?
18-year-old Weston Haylock was jailed for 2 years, 10 months. Harvey Carr, who was also 18, got 3 years, 2 months. And 19-year-old Tyler Easterbrook was sentenced to 6.5 years.
They didn't care at all who they hurt, any laws they broke, just complete disregard for anything other than their want to evidently go out and have a good time. And quite frankly, what has it achieved for them? Prison time.
Now, earlier I spoke to DS Pemby Raya from the Met Police about a very difficult case of a non-recent sexual assault on a child. As you can imagine, this appeal covers some difficult themes, so please do bear that in mind. I started by asking her to talk us through what happened.
Yes, so we received a report last year from a very brave young boy who reported that back in the summer of 2016, when he was only 8 years old, he was seriously sexually assaulted. He's now 16. He's had the courage to come forward and report it to police, and he told us that in the summer of 2016 he was playing football on Mayors Green near his home address when he was approached by the suspect, who told him he had a son also interested in football and led him to his son, essentially, or what the victim thought he was doing. He's then taken him to a block of flats, and on the ground floor communal area he's then proceeded to seriously sexually assault him.
Now, you mentioned it was Enfield, but do you know any more specifics about when and where this occurred?
So we don't have a date or time, as the victim was only 8, he can't recall those specifics. But we do know that he was initially approached on Mayor Green, and it was from there that the suspect has led him to a block of flats on Pentrith Avenue, as you can see there, and on the ground floor communal areas where he was seriously sexually assaulted. Now, the victim recalls the suspect suddenly fleeing from the scene as he believes that he was disturbed by a noise, and the victim was left within the flats. He's then left in tears and made his way back home.
It really is such a sad image, and the victim has given us this statement to convey that impact that this has had on him. He says, "When I got home, I felt as if I couldn't speak. I was in shock. I couldn't even explain what happened. I was overthinking how my parents would react, even though they are very supportive. I was worried that if I told them, they would think I had made a silly decision that had led up to the situation happening." It's so powerful hearing those words. What do you think it was that gave this young man the confidence to finally speak out?
He's been carrying this trauma for the past 8 years, and understandably he found it difficult to talk about, but he's now found the confidence to confide in his parents and the police. And ultimately what he would like out of this is for the person responsible to be held accountable for what he's done to him. And ultimately, if anyone else is a victim of a similar crime or even victim to the same suspect, for them to now feel the courage to come forward and report it to the police.
It'd be so important, and we want to help with that. Now, this happened a while ago, this absolutely horrific crime. There's not a huge amount of information to go on, but what do you know about the suspect?
So we have no CCTV or images, but from the victim, he described him as a white older male. He had an English accent, was around 5'9" in height, but distinctively he had a thick grey-white beard and also a purple mark under his right eye, which could either be a birthmark or possibly a bruise. So that should really stand out about the suspect. And
also, he mentioned something about the boots as well, which may be a clue.
Yeah, it may be a clue in terms of what work he does or what he's doing in the area, but that's quite distinctive.
This is what he described as big, heavy-duty black boots. And as you say, that distinctive mark under his eye could be a bruise, could be a birthmark, but he certainly remembered that, didn't he? Now, this sounds difficult to solve, but we can and do get results from cases like this. Who do you want to hear from today?
I'm reaching out to the local community of Enfield, particularly around the area of Mayor Green. It was a busy summer, 2016. Rio Olympics were on. Leicester City had just won their first Premier League in history. So that may jog your memory in terms of when it was. If anyone can recall seeing this man, he did have a distinctive bruise or birthmark under his eye. You may know who he is. He may be local to the community. He may have done something similar to you or your child. If you do have any further information, we would encourage you to come forward with anything that you've got.
Thank you. If you know something about this awful case, no matter how small or irrelevant you think it might be, please do get in touch. All the ways to contact us are on the screen below. And if you are affected by any of the issues discussed here, then please visit Action Line, where you can find more information and contacts who can offer support.
Time now to visit a diner with a difference and hear how a charity set up to tackle knife crime is helping young people onto a more positive path.
Volunteering most definitely saved my life. If I hadn't gone into the voluntary sector, I'd probably be in prison or be dead. Grew up in Tower Hamlets. At the age of 13, my parents divorced and I moved to Hackney. and life was very different. I was angry because I didn't want my parents to divorce, of course. I was angry because I moved away from all my friends and everything that I knew, and this anger was inside of me that I didn't know how to control. Next thing I knew, I was a part of the gang, and it just escalated from there. To the point where 16, my mother found weapons in my room. And it got really serious when, one, a friend of mine got killed, and two, another friend of mine went down, he got sent down. I had a light bulb moment, because that could be me. That could be me next. It was then when the family stepped in. They brought in a family friend, and he got me to join a voluntary organisation and started mentoring me and motivating me to look at my life in a different way. By having something other than the gang to look forward to, it made me rethink my direction. Chit Chat For You was set up by myself and my partner Larissa. Stoke-on-Trent has one of the highest levels of knife crime across the West Midlands. And for us, we wanted to try and do something about that. So we started to put on activities and projects to work with young people and their families and help them and provide them with mentoring and support that's going to help them take another direction. Like it says, it's in the name, Chit Chat, somewhere where they can talk about everything that they need.
I've got a family member that was involved in county lines. There was an involvement in drugs delivering. It was quite deep, scary. There was lots of services involved, but there wasn't really much support for me. And somewhere like this, Chit Chat would have been absolutely amazing for me to come and offload, share my experience, realise that I wasn't the only one, and realising that it wasn't my fault. So I'm just so glad it's up and running now.
If you guys stay in the diner with Jay, and then you guys can get all the tasters done, at the end of the day we'll come back and we'll have a debrief of how the day's gone. Last year in August we opened the Chit Chat For You Retro Gaming Diner. The purpose of the diner is to create youth work experience for young people. We teach them life skills, we teach them how to run their own business. They learn how to cook with the chefs.
Dip it in the sauce all the way in, make sure all the chicken is coated, and then you just place it back on the tray.
Something that they can be really, really proud of. And we want to teach them skills. We want to give them an alternative.
We as staff, we don't get paid. We're all volunteers. So every penny that we make from the diner gets fed back into the charity.
We became partners of Staffordshire Police, and we work with them to complete knife sweeps. And we go into local parks, and together we will sweep the parks, we will collect the knives, and then them knives go into the knife amnesty bins. It's a massive thing. What we want to do is build relationships between young people and police. At the minute, young people have got a very negative view of police, and we really want to change that. We brought the Control the Bleed kits in, and there's one in each town. We do train people on how to use the kits, and they're used to stop the bleeds until the ambulance comes. That in turn saves a life, and you know, even if we save one, we've done our job.
Next, we're building some new youth mentors. And this is a project where we're getting young people we've worked with in the past, and we're training them up now to have them become youth mentors.
Before I got involved in Chit Chat For You, I was involved in a lot of crime and around a lot of no-good people. Selling drugs, gang crime, violence. Started at a young age, really. And then it led to me getting stabbed, led to me going in jail. So Chit Chat For You helped me load. They kind of mentored me and made me realise that I could help people that has been in my predicament, and to get them off the roads. I've been there, I've done it, so I can help them, educate them and mentor them into a positive lifestyle role.
So far, the charities helps thousands of young people. Our aim is to show them that they're part of a bigger community, a supportive community that's going to make sure that they feel safe and they feel supported always.
Great work there. Now we just have time for today's Wanted Faces. First, have you seen Ali, or Ali Alexander Gillen? He's been recalled to prison after breaching the strict conditions of his licence. He's 31, 5'11", and described as having a medium build and short brown hair. Police say he has connections to Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire and also areas around Bristol. Or how about Daniel Challoner? Although he calls himself Danny and sometimes uses the surname Chan, he has also been recalled to prison after breaching the strict conditions related to his release. Also 31, he has a crescent-shaped scar on the right side of his chin, a Liverpudlian accent and links to Worcester and also Cheshire. Next, we have Zuhair Khalid Nasrat, although he goes by the name Lockman. Police in Manchester want to speak to him about alleged involvement in the conspiracy to supply Class A drugs. He's 27, with links to the Hume, Rusholme, Ardwick and Gorton areas of Manchester. And last is Jack Hunter, though he also uses the name Jack Byrne. He's been recalled to prison where he was serving an 11-year sentence for a series of aggravated burglaries. Now, this is an old photo of him, so he will look a little bit different now, but police say he's known in the St Helens area of Merseyside, as well as to Cheshire and Worcester, but they also say he may have left the country and possibly travelled to Spain. Please do get in touch if you know where any of these might be. Our contact details are on your screen down by the clock. Thank you for watching. Today you can catch us on iPlayer, remember, for up to 30 days after broadcast. And if you have been affected by the subjects raised today, help is available at BBC Action Line.
Tomorrow, a homophobic gang go on the rampage.
Over the course of 10 months, the men conspired, planned and committed robberies across Birmingham, resulting in over £100,000 being stolen. They committed appalling crimes that would have a lifelong impact on the victims.
We will see you for that and more tomorrow morning, same time, 10:45. Bye for now.
See you then.